Oh boy. Well, let's talk about Batman Caped Crusader. Now, this is going to be as non-spoiler as possible, so if you haven't seen it yet and you still intend to watch this, no worries, it's not going to be spoiled for you. But just like many of you out there, I am a massive fan of Batman the Animated Series. Every day after school, I would race home, start my homework, and flip on the animated series. Hearing about the Caped Crusader, knowing that Bruce Timm was involved, I was a little nervous, I'm not going to lie. When I saw the original look of Batman, and with everything of how it is today with quote-unquote modern audiences, I was like, oh boy, here we go. And to be honest, this show is exactly that, for a modern audience. Now, there are some good aspects of this show, and this could have been a really good show. But of course, because of how modern day things are, we had to ruin it. Now, I will get into exactly why I think that is, but I'm going to start off by going over the things that I enjoyed. And that's not honestly that much, but this could have been a great show. But unfortunately, because of the route that they decided to take, it fell flat on its face. So like I said, when I first saw the images of Batman and whatnot, and it's going to be a time period piece in the 30s, I was a little nervous, but I'm not going to lie, I actually liked it the more that I watched the series. The fact that it is a time period piece and Batman doesn't rely on a lot of the technology that he did say in like the animated series, I like that. It's more detective based. Seeing everything in the Batcave, how it's 1930s, the map of Gotham City is like a see-through board. That stuff was really cool. The Batmobile wasn't this big giant tank, which I absolutely hate, by the way. It's just more of like a modern day car. I love it. The problem is that when you're doing a time period piece and you want the audience to believe that this is taking place, say, in the 30s, you can't have modern day societal issues in a time period piece. It doesn't work. I have no problem at this point anymore with race swapping. They do it all the time. Yeah, I'm not a fan of it, but Commissioner Gordon being black, I don't have a problem with that. But it's very hard to accept the fact that this is really taking place in the 1930s and you have somebody like that being a black guy. Because unfortunately, that's just not the case in real life. So this show constantly tries to have both sides of the issue. They want to be a period piece, but also we're going to just kind of do what we want at the same time. And I know it's a cartoon, but you kind of have to stay true to it. You can't just pick and choose what you want reality to be. A couple of the other issues with this being a time period piece. This show is very heavily focused on women. And again, I have no problem with women characters whatsoever. Batman the Animated Series, we saw a lot of characters being introduced. For example, Harley Quinn. Her origin story I thought was awesome. Well, of course, in this show, they changed it to accommodate, well, a modern audience, because Harley Quinn is not going to turn to a life of crime because of her love for a psychopath. A man, mind you. No. She's going to do this to fight against rich white men. So again, major issue there. And I love Harley Quinn as a character. Montoya, the detective, the police officer, again, to compare to Batman the Animated Series, I really enjoyed that character. I think she's great. I know she's been in the comics. In this show, she is built like a soda can. I know cops can be fat. I know there's characters that are heavyset. The problem is that when you have heavyset characters, especially police officers, you don't take them as seriously. So for example, like Bullock. Bullock, when you see a heavyset detective, you're not to be taken seriously. She's still a, take charge detective, but of course has to be heavyset. Speaking of being a big fat slob, we have the Penguin, who has now been turned into a female. Now look, I know Bruce Timm has came out and said, yes, they wanted more female villain characters, and I'm fine with that. I have no problem with that whatsoever. But why not just create new ones instead of gender swapping one? Someone as iconic as the Penguin. So in this series, they have the Penguin being as Walda, and she's a sex symbol. In her club, she's singing, and all these cops are fawning over her. And unfortunately, that's just not real. That's just not realistic. I'm sorry. That kind of stuff right there just makes you want to shut it off and say, no thanks, I don't want to watch this. And that's honestly why this review has taken me so long, because this show was very difficult to get through, especially the first half. The second half of the series is much better, but the first half isn't even really focused on Batman. Most of this is focused on these characters, these female characters. And I'm sorry, but I'm watching a show about Batman. I want to focus on Batman. Just to give you an idea of how bad the writing is, they put a scene in this show that Bruce Wayne is sitting in therapy with Harley Quinn because he lashed out and punched somebody. Yet when Catwoman gets arrested for stealing, they let her go. But Bruce Wayne has to sit through therapy and talk about his anger issues. That's the kind of nonsense you're dealing with in this series. I think the only character that was done really well besides Batman, and I grew on that appearance and look, was Catwoman. Catwoman was perfect. They drew her well. I liked her outfit. I think they did Catwoman really good. But everything else was pretty much an abomination. Now, here's another thing I want to bring up for the people that are defending this show. For example, Alfred is very heavyset in this show. And the argument is the original comics, he was a little heavyset. And that's what a lot of people were using to defend Alfred's weight gain, okay? And that's fine, but you can't use that as a defense for Alfred, but then also be okay with the Penguin being gender swapped, Harley Quinn's change, and everything else. So the hypocrisy is running rampant. Again, a lot of this is almost unwatchable in my opinion, to the point where it was a rough watch, the first half. It got better, but definitely built for a modern day audience. This show could have been really good, and they still could have put in a lot of those quote-unquote DEI aspects, and it just didn't have to be so heavily forced into your face. But this show makes it to where you can't not see it. Some shows do a better job hiding it than others, and it's bearable. This is unbearable. Like I said, it took me a very long time to get through this, and more than likely I'm not going to watch season 2. If you're a fan of the animated series, if you're expecting something similar, you're going to be upset. And to be quite honest, I didn't want a continuation of that series. I wanted something different. I'm also tired of the fact that we always see Batman's like first or second year as Batman. Like, can we please have an older Batman? And you're just dropping us into the world. I am so tired of seeing the same thing over and over and over. I don't want to see Harvey Dent turning into Two-Face anymore. But for the most part, it's a hard, difficult watch just because, like I said, DEI is front and center. Batman for the first half of the show is backseat. But let me know what you think down below if you were able to watch this show, if you enjoyed it. I know a lot of people are actually enjoying it.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
And if you are, great, let me know what you enjoyed about it and why you enjoyed it down below in the comments. If you've watched it and you hated it, let me know why. Let me know what you thought about the Penguin and everyone thinking she's the most gorgeous thing in the world, or Fat Montoya, or Asian Harley Quinn. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. I appreciate you guys checking out the video. And until next time, take care.